Off and running on a Tuesday evening, just like UConn is running towards another parade in Storrs, Connecticut. Easy winner for the Huskies, another cover, another title, sixth in the last 25 years. That is Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. Adios, college basketball. Hello to lots of different things. NBA playoffs right around the corner, NHL playoffs, massive implications tonight between your Detroit Red Wings and my Washington Capitals. Got a lot going on, a lot to get to. New draft props have dropped that we are going to discuss. So just when you think, well, what are you guys going to talk about? My wife may or may not have said that to me today. I said, oh, got plenty to talk about. Major League Baseball. How about my Padres and their comeback yesterday?
True.
Got a lot to get to. But let's put a bow on what we saw and what we can learn, if anything, from the dominance that was the UConn Huskies. UConn, as you all know by now, is the national champion. And as you all know, since this is a sports gambling network, they covered all 6 games of the NCAA tournament and did it in relatively easy fashion, covering every single game by over 10 points a game, covering the national championship by 8 points. They were a 7-point favorite, and they beat Purdue 75-60 over the last 2 NCAA tournaments. 12-0, straight up 12-0 ATS, all 12 games, double-digit victories. The UConn Huskies, domination through the last 2 NCAA tournaments. Did we learn anything? Did the market not pick up on this fast enough? Because I know that's the question that people are asking. Well, why didn't they make them bigger favorites? As we discussed yesterday, JVT, on the show, Ken Pom, Bart Torvik, all had this game lined around 3. It went off 7, and they still covered. So what do we learn, if anything, from this remarkable run by the UConn Huskies?
I don't really know, to be quite honest with you. I mean, these are 2 somewhat different teams, right, that made these runs. It's not like you had the same core of like 8 guys that had been there for the 2 straight years and made this run.
Yeah, this is not Florida
right.
06-07. This is not Duke 91-92. Grant Hill was talking about it last night on the broadcast. He said, look, when we won in 91, which remember was a stunner because they beat UNLV in the national championship and no one anticipated that to happen. But when they won in 92, they basically ran it back with everybody that was on the 91 team. Not the case last night.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, it might sound odd, but look, maybe it's just 2 runs like that are just like, hey, like, oh my gosh, all right, cool. You caught lightning in a bottle twice, and you made these dominant runs against the spread, and you were absolutely brilliant. I don't know what you tie that together other than the fact that, hey, maybe it's just Hurley. Maybe Hurley is this good of a coach that he's always going to get these guys, and every single time now that he enters the NCAA tournament, he's going to cover every single game. But in reality, Tim, I know this might sound dumb, but we are talking about 12 total games in an NCAA tournament over the course of 2 runs. You can get pretty hot over the course of 12 games, but this was generally really dominant. And what I find pretty interesting, I don't even know if you're calling this a learning thing, but the fact that, you know, when you get this dynamic of the projections that kind of help shape the market, but the market respect of like, no, like we think this team is better than that. And in fact, they were better than what we thought, even though we thought they were better than that. And to see that kind of difference between those 2 is pretty fascinating. You know, we always like to make the joke that the market's beholden to like Ken Pom projections. This was at least a lesson in that. No, it's not. Like the market still shapes itself. And even then, when you're talking about the market shaping itself, it still was a little off considering that this team covered the way that it did during this run. And I thought that was incredible. And maybe it's just ride the hot hand, man. Like maybe that's the lesson. Maybe when the team's rolling, just keep rolling with them.
Well, it's funny, especially on this network, and I am guilty of it too. You know, you see a trend that has been going on for 5-10 games, and you're like, it's got to stop at some point. You got to figure out when to jump off. Ultimately, you rode that train all the way from game 1 all the way to game 6. And, you know, we saw it last year a little bit different. I want to show that graphic once again because to your point, look, this is a very different team this year from last year, where you look at last year, their first round opponent, Iona, they were a 9.5-point favorite against Iona in the first round. They were a 10-point favorite in the Final Four against Alabama. So it goes to show, and last year, UConn had that stretch in conference play where they fell behind. They lost in the Big East semifinals a year ago to Marquette. And then they got really hot at the right time and ran through everybody in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. Both those games took place here in Las Vegas. I mean, that was remarkable. They obliterated Arkansas and Gonzaga, covering the point spreads by 21.5 and 25.5.
I was so excited to go to those games. And then I was like, oh, wait, no.
The Gonzaga game prior to that, the Gonzaga-UCLA game was actually entertaining.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
The Elite 8 game, not so much. And then you get this year, and I thought, there were a couple outliers. Obviously, the San Diego State game. That was the only time in this tournament where I did lay it with UConn, and you did too, was the San Diego State game. And
that was more anti-San Diego State, right? Even though we love UConn, like that was more anti-San Diego State than anything else.
But, I mean, look, I think when you take a step back, you tip your cap. Those who bet UConn, I didn't go against them. No, I did a little bit. I took the first half and almost got there. Alabama did get their home in the first half. So 2 other things. What did we learn from the NCAA tournament? Evan Abrams from the Action Network put out the trends and how profitable favorites were during this run, this NCAA tournament. 39 and 28 against the spread this NCAA tournament. So it was a really chalky run, and if you back that, hey man, congratulations.
You mean the public?
Favorite 6-1 ATS in the Elite 8 or later, best mark since 1981. Favorites of 8 or more went 20-5 against the spread.
Wow.
So it was as chalky as it comes. Top 3 seeds versus seeds 4 seeds or worse, 21-10 ATS. So, we talk about it a lot. I love betting dogs more often than not. Man, it was, I had to alter my way of betting this NCAA tournament because it was pretty chalky. Now, however, you and I were on Purdue Island in the Final Four because NC State became that popular dog, and ultimately Purdue was able to win. So a chalky tournament. UConn wins with relative ease. I went back and looked up the last team to beat UConn in the NCAA tournament, New Mexico State. You can take that to the water cooler here.
There you go.
So how about this? So back in February, Jeff Benson put out a tweet here at Circa. You could take Purdue and UConn, or you could take the field. It was plus 260 for UConn and Purdue. And it was minus 330 for the field. And we talked about it on this show. I did not bet this prop, but I'm sure I would have said, you got to lay the chalk here. You got everybody else.
That's what I said.
You get Houston. You get everybody else. Come on. Can't take the plus 260. Well, that would have been a very enjoyable bet to have in your back pocket at plus 260. So I want to flip it this way here. On April 9th, with the NBA playoffs going to be starting here in, about 2 weeks? A little less than that, play-in tournament. If I offered you Nuggets, Celtics versus the field. Now, the price, I was texting with a buddy of mine. He said he would make the price maybe like around minus $2 to get Nuggets and Celtics. The field would be plus 180. Would that be fair? Current price right now at Circa is Celtics plus 160 to win the title, Nuggets plus 290. They are the 2 betting favorites. So we got a little bit of different price at DraftKings. But for argument's sake, let's say you're just laying 280 plus 180 on the opposite side. What would you do?
I mean, I'm laying no, but it's mostly about the Western Conference than it would be about the Eastern Conference. At this point right now, this seems like if Boston doesn't make it through the Eastern Conference playoffs, and I mean I think 3 losses is probably the acceptable mark given the way that the Eastern Conference is shaking out.
What was the year
now.
that Cleveland, didn't they go 12-0?
I think they did, yes, if I remember correctly. Them and Golden State, I believe, both went 12-0 going into the finals. I could be mistaken, but there was something around that, yeah. But this seems like a year that the Eastern Conference is setting up perfectly for the Boston Celtics. There should be no slippage here. The other problem is, for the other one though, is as good as Denver is, you do have some of these teams that I think do have some upper mobility that they're much more competent than the Eastern Conference competition. Obviously, Dallas is improving. We can go down and down the list. So
sure.
I think, and the fact that, look, these are professionals. These teams are much closer to one another than teams in a college basketball tournament setting where you're going to get some really soft opponents at the early portions of the tournament. And by the way, it's single elimination, so you could get those softer teams right to make a run. NC State, no offense to that team, but that was an 11 seed that made a run to a Final Four. You're not going to generally get that here in a playoff. So I would still lay the no. A lot of that has to do with the Eastern Conference, or should be the Western Conference. But to your overall point, the point you're getting at here, if you were to just say, all right, Celtics in the East, what are you doing? I think that's the argument. We talked about this like a month ago, and I made the case of like, well, you still have Milwaukee if Cleveland gets healthy. At this point right now, it seems like that is a layable price for the Boston Celtics to make it out of the Eastern Conference.
Apparently, there is one shop that has it right now.
Okay.
That is out there, and their prop price is minus 150. Celtics, Nuggets, the field is plus 110.
Yeah, I think I'm taking the plus 110.
So while we sit here, on the flip side, when you look at Celtics versus the field in the Eastern Conference, you and I joked about it. I don't think we ever bet it. We would take the field at any plus price. Mine changed on that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, just at what point, what team are we really circling that gives you confidence that they're going to upend Boston? I mean,
the team that they play tonight?
Yeah, maybe.
The Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah, we'll see if they can put it together.
All hail the UConn Huskies, the champs, never in doubt, covering every game by over 10 points. We move on. Got a big event happening down in Augusta, Georgia, later on this week. The Masters, a tradition unlike any other. Bob Herrig going to help us break down this Masters field. On the other side of the break, we're up and running. It's VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Still got some time to check out the free betting splits page. That's right, betting splits data is open to the public. Check it out now, vsin.com/splits. You can get the money and the tickets for every single game up on the card, not just today, but future events as well. All data courtesy of DraftKings. Check it out now, vsin.com/splits.
Well, we said goodbye to college basketball, wrapped up last night as UConn wins its second straight national championship. We'll have best bets for tonight. Busy night on the ice, NBA, Major League Baseball. We'll get to those bottom of the hour. But, of course, on Thursday starts a tradition unlike any other, the Masters down in Augusta, Georgia. And to help us break down the Masters and also talk about his new book, it is Bob Herrig who joins us right now on our progressive guest line. His book, Drive, The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods. 5 years ago, Tiger Woods won his 15th major, in improbable fashion, winning it down there in the Masters. So a great time to talk about that. Bob, appreciate you jumping on the show. Of course, Bob now writing for Sports Illustrated. I'll start with Tiger Woods. He has obviously long shots to win this, but he did have a quote today down there in Augusta, and he said, quote, "If everything comes together, I think I can get one more." He's 48. He's dealt with a ton of injuries. Do you believe it, that if everything came together, could Tiger Woods win one more?
Well, I think you sort of doubt Tiger at your own peril, but, Tiger is never going to say anything other than he's here to win until he doesn't think he's here to win. And he got asked a question about being a ceremonial golfer, and he didn't even want to, he didn't even want to go there. I mean, certainly Tiger, if everything did come together, he's still an elite iron player, one of the best in the world. If you put him at the ball in the fairway, he's going to probably most of the time hit a great shot. He still can hit it out there 300 plus yards. If he is sharp, his short game is very, very good, even at 48. But the problem is, you still got to get to the ball. And I think, if anything, his plight of the last couple of years has shown that, walking's a pretty big, important part of the game. It's strenuous. There's parts of it that are needed in the golf swing. You get tired. Your legs are part of the swing. And obviously, he's got a lot of physical issues with his right leg now, and also still his back, which has been going on for 10 years. So, the other thing is Tiger I just don't know that he's prepared enough. He's only played 24 holes of official golf in 2024. He withdrew with illness from the Genesis Invitational back in February. He's trying to play against guys who've been playing, 5, 6, 7 tournaments since January 1. They practice and compete all the time. It's just a lot to ask. But, I think that Tiger, given his personality and the way he puts so much effort into the amount that he loves this tournament, you just don't put anything past him. And let's see how it goes. Maybe he gets off to a good start and builds some confidence.
You had a great article, Bob, I think it was on Monday, about the practice round, and obviously the comparison with Will Zalatoris, who's had his own back issues too. So what do we make of what Will Zalatoris had to say and his health as back issues plague him? But he's really talented, and his numbers on this course have been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he had the same – Tiger's had that microdiscectomy 4 times. The first one was 10 years ago. And then – he went through about a year and a half of grief trying to play and had 2 more. And it didn't work. That's what led to the spinal fusion, which, of course, led to the great comeback in the 2019 Masters victory. Zalatoris, at this very tournament a year ago, was getting ready, and on Thursday was warming up, and something went bad in the back. He withdrew. He had been experiencing back issues for the better part of 6 months. He had finally won his first tournament in August of the year before, of 2022, and then the very next week, something happened at the BMW Championship, and he had to withdraw. And he tried to come back in the spring, and at the Masters, it just went bad again. He had a microdiscectomy 2 days later, like they had it scheduled. He did it on a Saturday. And he didn't play again in a tournament until December. And Zalatoris is a young guy, 27, already back issues, so Tiger could have probably imparted some wisdom, like maybe take your time, like don't overdo it. Make sure that you get with a good physical trainer to stretch and do all those things that are necessary, because Tiger might have come back too soon early on. And, it's hard to play golf with a bad back. You're just not going to be able to swing around it.
Bob Herrick joining us here on VSiN Primetime. Once again, the book, The Drive, The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods. Well, Tiger Woods has been a massive favorite, at the peak of his powers. The odds, especially from a golf standpoint, were outrageously short. You look at Scottie Scheffler, Bob. He is the shortest favorite we've seen since Tiger Woods in 2013. Depending on what book, he's around plus 450, plus 475, somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, that is incredibly short for a golfer. When you look at Scottie Scheffler's game right now, as he heads into Augusta, he obviously won it back in 2022. Is it really just as simple as Scottie Scheffler versus the field in your eyes? How do you look at Scottie Scheffler, and what do you expect from him this week in Augusta?
Yeah, I mean, you guys would know better than anybody that's pretty risky, in golf. I mean, even back when Tiger was around those numbers, right? I don't know what that 2013 number was, but I'm sure it was in the ballpark.
Plus 350.
And Tiger, yeah, look at that. I mean, Tiger didn't win that year. That was the year Tiger had the bad drop when he was in contention and he hit the flagstick and the ball went back in the water. And it ended up costing him 4 strokes with the penalty and everything, and he lost by 4. I mean, that kind of stuff happens in golf, So the reason Scheffler has those short odds is because he's been playing the best of anybody for more than a year. Even going back to Jon Rahm winning the Masters last year. I mean, Rahm didn't win after that, either did Scheffler, but Scheffler has been incredibly consistent and then won twice in the last month. And he seems to have found something with his putting, which had been holding him back. He started using a different putter, a mallet putter, did something with the golf ball that was sort of getting in his head. He took the line off of it, of all things, and said it freed him up to not worry about how the ball was rolling. And all of a sudden, he won 2 tournaments. And then in Houston 2 weeks ago, he had a chance to win a third. He missed a birdie putt on the 18th hole that would have got him into a playoff. It wasn't a gimme, but it was a makeable putt. But still, he put himself there again. And, he's an amazing ball striker. He won here 2 years ago. Of course, he's going to be a huge favorite. But picking him against the field, I think, is pretty rough. I don't know that I would ever do that because there's plenty of other guys that can win too.
So in this tournament, we're obviously going to talk about Tiger. We talked about Will Zalatoris with you. Jon Rahm's the defending champ. We talked about Scheffler. Who is the golfer we're not talking about enough heading into this week that we're going to be talking about once it's all done?
Yeah, good question. The problem with this year is that none of the stars other than Scheffler have really stepped up and had great years. We haven't seen much form from like Rory McIlroy. There's a guy we'd be talking about. He won in Dubai, but he hasn't won on the PGA Tour and really hasn't contended. I really like Victor Hovland, but he's not done anything in 2024. Great Ryder Cup, great end of last year, and then sort of quiet. Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Max Homa, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. These are all the named players, and they've not really been getting much done. We've had kind of a year of like neat stories of guys who've come out of nowhere to win. But one of them who shouldn't be considered out of nowhere, but might not be getting the attention is Hideki Matsuyama. He won the Masters in 2021, world-class player. He had just fallen off a little bit, though. He had some injury issues late last year, and early into this year, a neck and shoulder problem. And he won at Riviera Tigers tournament, the Genesis. He shot final round 64 to come from behind and win. And at the time, he was outside of the top 50 in the world. So the win seemed a little bit surprising, but Hideki's not a surprisingly good player. He's a world-class player. So I kind of like him this week. Obviously he likes Augusta. He's played well here. He's won here, has a little bit of form, and at least has a win under his belt this year.
He sits around 20-1. Hey, Bob, before we let you run, we got about 45 seconds. Obviously, the folks know about the book, Drive, The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods. What's something that we will unearth when we crack this book?
Well, there's probably the one big thing that's probably not been disclosed much is just the whole backstory to Tiger's back surgery, like what he went through and how that came about. He kind of clandestinely went to Europe after the 2017 Champions Dinner. He was at a loss. He was desperate, met with consultants. That led to the spinal fusion surgery. And the other thing I'd throw out is in 2020, the year after he won, Tiger made a 10 at the 12th hole, highest score ever. And he came back and birdied 5 of the last 6 holes. Like, nobody else does that. And the comments about him doing that, I thought were really good and worth a lot of attention in the book.
Bob, great stuff. Bob Herrig, the book, Drive, The Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Get ready to tee off with a special Masters edition of VSiN's Long Shots today, 11 p.m. Eastern. You can join Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidlin. They break down the field, analyze best bets, and get to the long shots, of course. So check it out now. Special edition, Long Shots, 11 p.m. Gain a competitive edge. Maximize your winnings during this iconic golf tournament. And don't miss out. Exclusive Masters coverage at vsin.com/Masters.
Can't wait. Can't wait to watch and listen to that episode live tonight because I need some bets. I got asked today by a buddy of mine, hey, man, what are we betting in the Masters? I'm like, I don't know. I listen to smart. As I always say, when it comes to golf, and there's some other things, I like to listen to smart people. We've got a lot of smart people. Matt Brown, Matt Humans, Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidlin. You go about betting golf?
Well, if you look at a lot of the analysis out there, and obviously it's a very old tournament, so you have a lot of data to go on. Generally, outside of small changes they've made to the course, you'd find that out of all of the courses, all of the events, this is one that you can generally rely the most on course history, where it's most predictive. So I like to go to sites like datagolf.com, just generally look at course history, look at the guys who perform relatively well in terms of true strokes gained, and kind of sift your way through also recent form as well, right? You don't want to just blindly go in, like we were talking about Will Zalatoris. Like Will Zalatoris, I think we sent to the graphic, right? These are the true shots gained leaders at this course. Now, I did throw in one caveat on my own here, which is with at least 2 tournaments played. So, like, for example, you have Sahith Theegala, who last year finished 9th, only has 4 rounds played. He's actually second in true strokes gained, left him off because only 1 tournament. But generally, right? This is a predictive course because they've played so often here. It's always the same spot. So, like Will Zalatoris, again, do we want to blindly go in and go, well, I mean, in 2 tournaments, the guy's got a second-place finish at T6, and let's do it. Well, we just talked about him. He's got back issues. He's not entirely fully healthy. So I'll start here, and then I'll whittle my way through these guys and say, all right, how does recent form, where are they at, where is health, and get my way on there. I know that, for example, I'll be hunting around for Jordan Spieth, have a Jordan Spieth ticket. He's a guy that, again, has good course history here, as we've seen. Top 4 in terms of true strokes gained amongst these guys who have played a solid amount of rounds here, as well as some of the, I guess we'll call them longer shots. And even though I did hit him the year that he did win the Masters, I am such a big Mott's guy, and he has generally played pretty well here on this course, that him, along with a Colin Morikawa, will probably be on my card as well.
Bob Herrig said he liked a little Hideki Matsuyama. So, we'll put together our Masters play. We need a little competition. We'll do a little competition for tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. And for what it's worth, too, Matsuyama was actually just outside of this. I stopped it at true strokes gained of just over 2. He's right there, true strokes gained of about plus 194, just under Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka, and Hideki Matsuyama. So Mats is very much up there in terms of true strokes gained over the course of this history.
Yeah, and that's, I'll see if I ultimately play it, but when you think about Tiger Woods, the shorter field, he's got better odds to make the cut, but he's not played a whole lot of golf, as Bob Herrig pointed out.
No, and I thought Bob Herrig, who is brilliant in terms of his golf coverage, brought up the most important point. If you just asked Tiger Woods to swing the golf club and then you picked him up and then put him there like in a video game, yeah, like that's I think the biggest thing with Tiger. It's not his game itself. It's, are you going to make it through, trudging through this course, and as long as it can be. And that, that's hard on a guy with a bad back. And by the way, as we just mentioned, with Will Zalatoris having undergone the same treatment that Tiger has, will Zalatoris be able to hold up over the course of walking around in Augusta? So that's like one of the worries there too. But yeah, like if this was just like Tiger Woods, like PGA Tour on Xbox, right? Where, you just did it and then you just simmed and zapped over to the next spot and you were good to go, then yeah, but that's just not the case. And so that's why, I always understand anybody that, at least for this tournament, would want to come in and go, look, to make the cut, to have a successful day, we totally understand it, given how dominant he's been on this course, how familiar he is with this course. But the getting around is always what gets you. And look, I'm not really one for tradition. Give the guy a golf cart. Like, come on, he's an awesome dude. He's the best golfer we've seen. Let him drive the golf cart. All right. Didn't Daly get a golf cart at some point?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Give him a golf cart,
big
man.
Boy had to walk around. No, I'll leave that to the hot takes from Wes Reynolds and Matt Humans. I'm sure they'd get all fired up about that. But we got some business to tend to. Mike Sanford coming up. It was
a 2021 PGA Championship, by the way. Daly did get a golf cart.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Good pull. But let's get to it. Our best bets for tonight. Not yet. Okay.
That's all right. Snuck up on you.
We had a good night last night. All in all, we had a first 5 winner from you, which was nice. Phillies first 5 against the Cardinals. 2 runs in the 5th. Got that one home. Woo, easy winner. The only thing we went wrong was trusting that Purdue could keep it close. Outside of that, I'll say this, and I'm not one to pat ourselves on the back all that much, but I thought if you listen to the show, watch the show, I thought our breakdowns of the game, outside of my Purdue +4 first half and your Purdue full game, you said Zach Edey did not expect doubles. Guess what? Didn't really get doubles. They took away the guards. Under on assists. Yep. Bada bing, bada boom. Donovan Clingan, I expected maybe a little foul trouble. Ultimately, that happened. Expected a close.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. We saw the total rapidly to the under. 61 possessions. Game hit under. So, good night. Let's get to it. Our bets for tonight.
I see you using an old style.
I'm giving keys to the kingdom.
Putting our money where our mouth is.
I like to live dangerously.
It's time for Best Bets.
Come on, Jerry, it's a lock.
All right, coming off a good night, both of us going 2-1. A nice plus money winner from Mr. Von Tobel here on the under assists for Zach Edey. Gonna be challenging for me moving forward. My baby, that is college basketball, which we kind of had a love-hate relationship, but nice to end on a positive evening. What do you got for us in store tonight, Mr. Von Tobel?
Start with some baseball first.
Ooh, yeah.
How about that? Very much looking forward to the card later today. Let's go with, I laugh because I have a joke in my head, but it's not nice to call people names, so I'm not going to do this with A.J. Puck. But A.J. Puck's going to get the start with the Miami Marlins and the New York Yankees taking on each other. We saw an opener of about $1.85 here for the Yankees. Not surprising. We're up to well over $2. It's been a nightmare start for Puck so far this season, and I don't think it's going to be getting any better. Some of these numbers for him, he's walked 25.7% of the batters he's faced so far. Only 37% of his pitches have found the strike zone. He's having all sorts of issues. And against a Yankees lineup that is very patient, even more patient now with Soto at there. This team now second in walk rate so far this season, third in outside zone swing rate. They just don't swing at junk. Like, they're locked in and ready to go. And I think Puck, given the issues that he's had with command, he's going to give up a lot of free runners, and this Yankees team is going to take advantage of that. Now, I threw this in, by the way. It's Yankees first 5, minus half a run at minus 125 is the play. I did throw it in. I actually think that if you look at the numbers, Rodon is a guy that you could look at as potentially play against candidate as we move forward. But I want to take that position with a lineup that's a little bit better than Miami. We're talking about 30th in weighted runs created plus, 29th in WOBA right now. Rodon, I think, is due for a little bit of a fall from grace, but I don't think it's here. So Yankees minus the half run, minus 125 here in the first 5 against the Miami Marlins. One of 2 first 5 plays today in baseball.
All right. College basketball season, adios. Tim's got to find some plays somewhere else.
There we
Let's
go.
go to the NBA. I'm taking a page out of this guy's book.
Don't.
What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Milwaukee Bucks. What did you say last 7 games? 1-6?
1-6 straight up and against the spread.
They lost straight up to the Wizards as a double-digit favorite. The Grizzlies as a double-digit favorite. The Raptors as a double-digit favorite. Lost to the Knicks over the weekend.
You want to keep the theme going? With a double-digit lead at halftime.
With a double-digit lead. Bucks, baby! Come on! Minus 148 at DraftKings. Minus 150 is what I played here at Circa. This is going to go terribly wrong. But I did see this from Shams Charania. I don't think this is going to help, but maybe it will. They're making a tweak to the lineup there, JVT. In the midst of this losing streak, the Bucks are going to move Patrick Beverley into the starting lineup and remove Malik Beasley, who has started all 75 games this year. And, oh, by the way, is 9th in the NBA and made 3-pointers. Everybody's playing. Giannis, Chris Middleton, Dame, all playing. Beverley into the starting lineup. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Celtics will be without Kristaps Porzingis. Bucks are desperate, trying to fend off the Orlando Magic. Celtics have got everything clinched up at home. What could go wrong? 1-6 straight up with losses to the Wizards, the Grizzlies, and the Raptors. All those 3 teams, they stink. Yep. So, Bucks, money line.
Don't forget to mention Al Horford not going to play either, so that works for you too.
Go Bucks.
I'll roll through this quickly, and I've got an NBA play as well that we could talk about. I've technically got 2, but I got burned again by the injury report. Really quick, the other game today, we're going to go with the Seattle Mariners, Toronto Blue Jays. George Kirby, perfect example, I think, if you look at it from an ERA standpoint, of kind of diving in a little bit deeper through 2 starts. You'd see at 5.23 ERA and think this guy stinks. The metrics underneath are really nice, and you actually look at his last outing against Cleveland. 9 hits, 6 earned runs. Guardians were having 450 on balls in play. Was really getting some bad luck, the short end of the stick. Now here against Toronto, I think when you look at his numbers, 217 FIP, 237 expected ERA, limiting walks, all of those sort of things. And by the way, playing against Bassett here, I'll take it, and I'll go first 5 minus a half run plus 125 with the Mariners.
All right, there you go. Mariners, Yankees, first 5, both minus a half run.
Yep.
And Bucks on the money line, minus 150. Oh, that's going to go terribly wrong. Mike Sanford, nothing goes wrong when he joins us. He'll come on next.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Action-packed fight card taking over Las Vegas for UFC 300. And DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC, is giving new customers a shot. Oh,
hey now.
All choked up. To turn $5 into $150 instantly in bonus bets with any UFC 300 bet. Download the app, use promo code VSiN when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. Let him have a drink of water, people. You got
take me off camera.
Here you go. Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
You good? All right.
I'm actually just choking on my own spit, so that's the thing is I don't know if a drink of water really help. Let's see.
By the way, we're going to get to this top of the hour. I'll just say this.
It helped.
If you don't put in bets in the draft, they are going to move. Most of them, not all of them, but they are going to move fast And that's just in reference to Bo Nix draft position prop that has already moved 50 cents in the last hour or so. Let's talk some more draft, and we've been doing it for the past month or so with our good friend Mike Sanford, longtime offensive coordinator and head coach in the college ranks, and he's been joining us to break down prospects that he's seen in person, the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, and you can joins us right now on our progressive guest line. Let's go back to Michael Penix. We've talked about him a lot with you. When he was at Washington, you were backing him all the way through a championship, beating Bo Nix in Oregon. So when you look at him as a pro prospect, seen some connections with Las Vegas. Will it be in the first round? Will it be in the second round? But what are the positives for Penix, and then what are the negatives why a team would be scared away from him going in the first round?
Yeah, right here on this program, we've been talking about Michael Penix Jr. since it seems like early August. So I bet on Michael Penix Jr. I bet on him throughout the course of the year to continue to deliver, and really outside of the national championship game. He ran into the buzzsaw known as Michigan's offensive and defensive lines that just dominated college football. I think that you look at the positives, and we'll start with that. I think he's the best thrower of the football down the field, the explosive plays, the anticipation as a passer, and feeling windows that are really down, like greater than 15, greater than 20-yard windows, and be able to anticipate and have the arm talent to put the ball and fit them into those windows. One of the traits that I love about Michael Penix Jr. and why I think it's going to translate into the NFL, he's a very intentional thrower of the football. He oftentimes doesn't lead his receiver into a bad situation, and most of the time, the quote unquote inaccurate balls are balls where they're like chef's kiss type throws, because you're throwing away from maybe where the corner is starting to break on the football. And so I do think that he does end up becoming a down the field passer that is going to be on the same likes, I think, as CJ Stroud in his rookie year. And I think he will deliver in his rookie year. Now, obviously the negatives, he didn't throw the football a ton over the middle of the field. He wasn't, really much of a hit the singles and take walks and throw in that short area zone that obviously Bo Nix made so efficient in his game. But I don't frankly think that they needed to, because the explosive plays were there in back-to-back years. And then the other negatives, as we all know, is the injury history. I always hear him called a 24-year-old quarterback. As of draft time, he'll be 23. His birthday's in May. And I think that he is behind. All those injuries are behind him. He went and played 2 full years at the University of Washington and has put himself in a position to show that he is healthy. And he put the exclamation point at that at his pro day by running in the 4.4, 4.5 range in the 40-yard dash and verticaling over 35 inches.
Mike, what are the most fixable issues for a quarterback? Because when you hear stuff with like Drake May, for example, like, hey, like the short stuff, the easy things, sometimes he just misses on those ones. It could be symptom of footwork, arm slot, whatever it is. Is that the most fixable thing? Because I feel like when we look at some of these quarterbacks, if the issues with them are the fixable things, I think that makes it more likely that some of these teams would take them, right? Because those are the issues they can then fix when they get their hands on them.
Yeah, JVT, that's a great question. I spent 18 years with the quarterback position, about 10 years playing it in high school and college football. And the biggest thing I've learned over the years is muscle memory in terms of throwing motion and mechanics. You can't fix that. You started throwing something when you were 3, 4, 5 years old, and you just kept on throwing. So your arm slot's your arm slot. The Tim Tebow experience, I think it shows everybody that you can't change what happens really from shoulder to fingertip and the delivery of the football. What can be fixed are the footwork, the platform that you play with, being able to activate and becoming more of a rotational athlete and creating ground force production through the ball of your back foot all the way up to your front hip and finishing with your back hip. Those are things that are fixable. And I think like a guy like Drake May, one thing I do like about him is his footwork is raw. So that's going to be an easy fix. Any NFL quarterback coach or offensive coordinator will easily fix his dropbacks, his throwing process from the bottom down. But one thing that I don't like about a guy like Drake May is that I feel like his throwing process is long. And I think that's going to be an issue when you have to fit these balls into really tight windows.
We're talking to Mike Sanford, longtime offensive coordinator and head coach at the collegiate ranks, and now doing media work in Denver. Let's get to this because we asked you about it last week, but for those who missed it, you've probably been talking ad nauseum on your radio spots and TV hits about the quarterback position and what the Broncos will do at number 12. And the current depth chart is Jarrett Stidham and Ben DiNucci. That's not good. All that being said, a lot of people are under this assumption, at least nationwide, well, they need a quarterback, and they'll just pick Bo Nix because he's there. What do you think the Broncos should do at 12? And then on the second-hand side, Bo Nix, is he worthy of the 12th overall pick?
Yeah, I do think that the Broncos, as we all know, are in major need of a quarterback. They need, at the very least, competition for Jarrett Stidham. That's not an ideal situation to go into any NFL season with a guy that really hasn't played any meaningful snaps over a 5-6 year career. So that's got to happen. I do think that there is a world that exists where the Broncos could potentially trade back and get into maybe 19 to 25, get something of quality at that pick in the first round, and then somehow, some way attain a second round pick. And I do believe that Bo Nix will be available in the second round. I think that the one team where Bo Nix is just fit for, it is the Denver Broncos. So there isn't a lot of competition on the board because Sean Payton is one of the quarterback coaches and developers of quarterbacks that loves to play in this short and intermediate passing game. And Bo Nix is tailor-made for that type of an offense. But the draft grade in and of itself and the ability to push the ball down the field, which has become part of the NFL game, I just think that you're going to have some challenges. I do think that Michael Penix Jr. is a guy that might be off the board in the 13. I think that the Raiders at 13, and just because of his ability to push the ball down the field, that's a style that Al Davis made famous. Draft the fastest guys and get the quarterback that can throw it over the wall, as he used to say. I do think that that's something that could happen, and that'd be a scary deal for everybody else in the AFC West. But I do think the Broncos, they need to address some other issues, namely wide receiver. There's no dynamic tight end. There really isn't a go-to pass rusher. And then the offensive line, I think it's pretty set, but they'd love to be able to get, maybe some help in the interior at the guard spot. So I think that there is quality, and they could end up getting into the second round with the trade and end up with a late first and a second. And I think that would be the best solution for the Denver Broncos.
All right, Mike, I know we talked a lot about quarterbacks, wide receivers. One of the things that Tim and I have hit on a lot is it seems that every single mock has Joe Alt as the top offensive lineman, no questions asked. Have you gotten a chance to watch these linemen? Do you think Alt is head and shoulders the best guy?
I do. I think it starts with just the combination of size. Like I walked by him at the combine. This guy is massive. He carries himself like he is going to be the biggest guy in the field. But then you look at his athleticism, his ability to bend. He's been coached incredibly well at the University of Notre Dame. He started out, his career with Harry Hiestand, who I believe is the best developer of offensive line talent in the history of college and pro football. I think that Joe Alt is going to be a tremendous pro. He conducts himself in a way that you want your face of the franchise at the O-line to conduct themselves. I think that Joe Alt is the guy. But there are some really good picks. Latham from Alabama. I love Troy Fautanu from Washington. I think he's going to be a plug-and-play starter. This is a good I'd say the top of the offensive line of this draft class is very good.
Just a final one as we're talking with Mike Sanford. If you're the Chargers sitting at 5, you have, let's say, Malik Neighbors still out there, Rome Odunze, or you get Joe Alt. What do you do?
Well, if I'm going to bet on Jim Harbaugh and playing the physical brand of football, Joe Alt's a perfect fit. It sends a message to the rest of the AFC and National Football League. We're going to be a physical team that's going to run it right at you and play action over the top. Joe Alt would be a great pick. And then don't be surprised to see Coach Harbaugh end up getting his guy Blake Corum at some point in the next couple rounds and then build this thing around the ground game. And you got Justin Herbert to spin the football. Not a bad deal.
Number 5, why not? Blake Corum, number 5, why not? It's his guy. Hey, Mike.
Straight up to number 1. You don't want to miss out.
Yeah, that's true. You don't want to miss it. Hey, Mike, always appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, appreciate you, fellas.
There he is. Mike Sanford. Let's continue that draft talk. Ooh, we got movement on the DraftKings board.